Hey guys, what's up? And thanks for tuning in to today's video. Much appreciated. And today I'm going to wade into another, I guess it's going to be controversial for some people. It shouldn't be controversial because it's basically centering around the future of our fishing and ensuring quality fishing. And what I wanted to talk about today is I wanted to sort of make a case for why I think that bass tournaments should only be held during cold water months of the year. And they should just stop being held during warm water periods of the year. And I'm going to go into an explanation on this. I'm going to explain why. And I'm going to look forward to a lot of comments on that and see everybody's opinion on that. But a couple quick housekeeping tips. Just wanted to quickly remind everybody again, if you all are interested in becoming a member of the channel of Intuitive Angling, we're offering these membership options that include, additional videos that are not seen by the regular YouTube channel, access to email to, answer your personal questions. If you guys are interested in helping support the channel and becoming part of that, just go into the About section on my YouTube channel and you can sign up for that. And this in no way affects the regular channel. So anyone out there thinking that, this is going to cost money for everybody that, doesn't want to participate, it's not. This is just an option. If you guys want to help go a little further and support the channel, which is much appreciated, since all this info takes time to do, it takes time to put these videos out. So anyway, let's get into this conversation here about what I'm talking about, where I think tournaments should be, they should just stop having them in more warm weather months. I did a video a couple days ago. I was talking a little bit about how I don't think there should be any bass tournaments in the spawn and the post-spawn period. A lot of you guys may have seen that. But after I did that, I started doing some research and I got online. I started looking at a lot of different studies that have been conducted over the last 20 years on bass mortality associated with fishing tournaments. And there's a lot of information out there, guys. There's a lot of studies that have been done by different universities and organizations trying to determine the impact that bass tournaments have on fish mortality, on bass mortality, and it's really fascinating. These studies are pretty complex. They go into, there's a lot of like algebra and physics equations as far as how they determine different control groups and mortality rate percentages. But the bottom line, after I read a lot of these studies, is this. A lot of these studies were based upon, they had a control group of fish, and basically what they did, they took a number of, they collected a sample of, like at bass tournaments, of some bass that had been weighed in at tournaments, and they put them in a holding area, monitored these fish for months, and they also put in a control group of bass that they just caught. They were not transported in live wells or anything. They were just caught and they were put into the control group, sort of non-tournament type fish. And the studies are pretty much conclusive overall that they have come up with a statistic that between 60 to 70% of the bass that experience delayed mortality and die over this test period were tournament caught bass that were caught in tournaments, that were in the live wells all day and weighed in tournaments and released. 65 to 70% of the bass in the control group were the ones that that experienced delayed mortality, were the tournament caught fish. So that statistic right there is undeniable. When you have a mutual consensus based upon a lot of different independent studies that are saying, that have undeniable proof that tournaments cause delayed mortality of 75% more of the time than regular caught bass. That's something that everybody needs to take up and take notice of, because what happens in these studies overall is they sort of found out that the larger bass are affected more than the smaller bass in this delayed mortality. And I've seen this in fishing myself. When, the number of big fish that we have across the country that are caught in tournaments, they are way down from what they were 30 years ago. I mean, I remember back in most tournaments that we fished 30, 25 to 30 years ago, most anywhere you went, it took 8 to 10 pounds to win big bass for the tournament. Even here in Missouri, it took that. And now, a lot of the tournaments we fish, 5 or 6 pounds will win big fish to the tournament. I mean, and probably more than not. And on top of that, I just think the average size of the fish has gone down. And this a little bit is that particular fact is skewed a little bit in the fact that we have become so adept and good at catching bass that overrides the fact that our overall quality of our fishing in our lakes is down. And the point that I'm going to make on this is bass tournaments, I'm going to say like the regional type levels or the AAA type circuits, they are a very good indicator of the overall quality of our fishing. But you should never look at the upper weights, what it takes. What you should look at in every single tournament is like the bottom 25% of the weights caught in those tournaments. Because if you go to like a BFL tournament or a Toyota Series or any type of like weekend grassroots type tournament, which has a lot of really good fishermen in it, above average anglers, way above average anglers from the average weekend angler, a lot of times the bottom 25% of the field in most any tournament you go to, with the exception of is like if you go to Lake St. Clair and up north or something, you're talking about it's like 2 to 3 pounds, maybe 2 to 5 pounds for the bottom 25% weight in almost any tournament across the country. To me, that is the indicator of the overall quality of the fishery. And it's not real impressive, to tell you the truth. I mean, that particular thing. So I think what we have is there's this illusion when you look at tournament weights and say, oh, it took 80 pounds to win this Elite Series tournament, or it took 100 pounds to win it. There's an illusion that we have good fishing when we don't. We overall have declining fishing as far as quality and numbers go, but on the upper end of that scale, with the increased electronic technology and bait and lure technology, and we've gotten so good at catching these fish that it creates sort of a false narrative on how good the fishing is. And I'm all about fishing being good for the average dude. I don't want to relate how good a fishing is to some pro. I want some guy that is an average angler that wants to go out there and catch fish. I want him to be able to do that. And so that gets to my point about making the case where I think tournament organizations should just stop having tournaments in warm weather months. In my opinion, once that water temperature starts to hit the upper 50s, mid to upper 50s, or let's say 60 degrees, for example, that'd be the cutoff point, tournaments should just stop. Number one, you're getting into the spawning season. You've got that whole deal as far as allowing the fish to spawn undisturbed. And then as it goes on a little bit more, you've got the post-spawn period where bass are at the weakest point. The big bass are weak during the post-spawn. They've used up all their resources, all their energy. They're skinny, they're frail during the post-spawn. They need to recover. And even on into the summer and in the early fall. In the summertime of the year, we got hot water. When those bass are put in those live wells in the middle of the summer, it stresses them out, unbelievable. There's a tremendous amount of delayed mortality in summertime tournaments and even in through the early fall. In my opinion, this is what needs to happen. Tournaments should basically be relegated to the time of the year in the fall when that water temperature gets below 60 degrees, which is in October or November for most parts of the country, and on up until like April before it rises up into 60 degrees. So you still got like a 5-month period of the year to have fishing tournaments. If you have fishing tournaments when it's cold weather, the odds of having a delayed mortality and killing these bass go way down. They go tremendously down. The bass are usually healthier this time of year. They're fatter in the late fall. They're fatter in the pre-spawn. They've got their resources and energy build up. Their metabolisms are low. The water temperatures are cold, and they can withstand being in a live well all day long a lot better without getting delayed mortality. So the point remains, it's like, what is it going to take to do this? I mean, I know a lot of tournament organizers, there's so many tournaments across the country that most tournament directors and most tournament organizations, they don't pay any attention to anything other than when they can schedule a tournament and when the Chamber of Commerce wants them to come in there. I see tournaments every weekend on every lake I go across the country that they have no regard for the fact if there's 5 or 6 tournaments on one lake during a weekend. Table Rock Lake, there's a half a dozen tournaments every weekend down there. There's no regard for the fact the fish are spawning, for they're recuperating after spawning, or if it's summertime or whatever. Tournaments just go on and on. And in essence, these tournaments become fish kills because I think that you have a lot more delayed mortality in bass fishing tournaments than what people realize, especially in the warm weather months. And nobody can accuse me of being anti-tournament because I'm not. I've made a living tournament fishing for over 30 years. I'm an advocate of tournament fishing. I think tournament fishing has a lot of benefits for the sport. I think it educates the public. I think it has ability to bring a lot of conservation issues into the sport. So I am in no way anti-tournament. What I am is I'm pro-conservation. And I'm pro doing anything that we have to do in the sport to ensure that we have a sustainable fishery moving forward. I don't care if somebody's feelings get hurt, that they say, if I say I think tournaments should be banned in April and May and during the pre-spawn, during the spawn and the post-spawn because it kills a lot of fish. I don't care if somebody gets mad about that because I know I'm on the right side of the issue. I don't care about somebody's perceived, rights to have a bass tournament when we're talking about the overall future of the sport and what we're going to hand down to our grandchildren. We don't own these lakes. We don't own the property. We don't own these bass. We are just caretakers here for a short period of time. I mean, we are here for a blink of the eye overall, and we have got to do everything we can to ensure that we are seen by our grandchildren as caretakers that handed something positive down onto them. In my opinion, one way we can do that is stop having these tournaments from like May until September. Just stop them. Just say no tournaments during this time of the year. Schedule your tournaments during the cold weather times of the year. You dudes that like to deer hunt all the time, you're going to have to decide if you want to deer hunt or bass fish. I know that was a big issue as far as when the Bassmaster stopped having tournaments in the fall time of the year. But in the big picture, I just think this is the smart thing to do. And I don't know what it's going to take. I don't know if it'll ever happen. I mean, if I would hope that the people that pull the strings in this sport that we're in, the sponsors, the tournament organizations, the tournament directors, all that type of stuff, I wish they would take the initiative and say, guys, we're going to take the high road here. We've seen the studies. We've seen the delayed mortality rates. We've seen what these warm weather tournaments are doing to our fish. We're going to stop it because we want to take care of this resource. We want to be conservationists. We want to make sure that people 50 years from now can go to bass tournaments and catch 20-pound limits. And I told that story a couple weeks ago. I'll relate this to you guys, and if you guys missed that video, the thing that really woke me up to this and shocked me to my core, and it shocked a lot of anglers too that were at the tournament, and this is not just isolated to this example I'm going to give you. We were at an FLW tournament at Kentucky Lake first week of June, about 10 years ago. Post-spawn deal, just like I said, the fish were weak. They just got done spawning. They were frail, they were skinny, they were weak. In that particular tournament, it was a toad fest. All those big post spawners had moved out to the ledges and the channel intersections, and there were 20-pound limits caught right and left. Big ones, 4 to 6 pounders. Took a ton of weight to do good in the tournament. I was in the last flight that last day of the first day of that tournament, and I walked by, I gave my bag of fish to the release boat. Right next to the release boat, there were 2 coolers that were giant coolers, like 8 feet long, 4 feet deep, biggest coolers I've ever seen, completely stuffed with dead bass, 4 to 6 pounders, dead, stacked like cordwood in these coolers. And this is just the ones that they saw dead when they weighed them in. It doesn't count for the ones they released back in the water that I guarantee died from delayed mortality. That's what you have when you have these warm weather tournaments. When you have post-spawn tournaments, when those fish are stressed out, they become nothing but fish kills. It's irresponsible for us as a group of anglers to do this. There's no reason for it, and it needs to stop. And so that's the case I make. Let's start having these tournaments, you know, late October all the way through up the first part of April. Those water temperatures are in the 40s and 50s. The bass are fat, they're strong. They can take that particular situation. I would, and you know, like I said, people seem to have some type of an objection to having winter tournaments, but winter is a great time to fish. I fish all winter long here in Missouri, and I'm in the fishing the 20-degree temperatures all the time. Fishing's good, fish are healthy, you don't kill them, and I just think it's a lot better, you know, planned, using moving forward. So anyway, I'm a vocal advocate about this. I'm unapologetic about it. I'll debate anyone, you know, that wants to debate on this. The only argument somebody has from what I'm saying is they feel like there's some right taken away from them to have a tournament where they want to. And to me, that's not an argument. Your rights to have a tournament 12 months out of the year, in my opinion, are not as important as, you know, people 50 years from now, and these little kids that are the you know, age of my son Elijah, that are going to have good fishing 50 years from now. And anything that we can do as anglers to ensure that, pass it on, make sure we have better fishing down the road, is the right thing to do. So anyway, you guys send me your comments, man. Let's get a conversation started on this. Like I said, keep the conversations on the topic. If you guys, you know, if some of you sensitive dudes out there want to start attacking me for this opinion, that's not where we're going to go. That's going to be deleted. Those comments will be deleted. Let's keep the focus on the topic here. Do you guys think that tournaments should be stopped during warm weather months so we can stop this delayed mortality and killing our bass? Do you think it's cool to do that? Just send me some comments on that. And if you get a chance, go online and read some of those studies about delayed mortality rates in an association with fishing tournaments. So anyway, hope you guys are doing good. We'll talk to y'all later. See you.